Good day to you, dear beloved. Welcome to this video, and we will continue this series called God's Plan with Mankind. Let's turn to the slides, and we continue with this one. This was the last one. So we are looking at God's creation now. So we are, let's say, very slowly honing in on our topic, of course. So God's creation in general, Nehemiah 9:6 talks about it. We're not going to read it again, but you know what it says, and especially the last part. The host of the heavens are prostrating themselves before you. It's literally the case, I believe, of course, but of course it can also be regarded figuratively. Okay, so now the emphasis lies on the host of heaven. Let's take a look. Now we're going to look very quickly, well, not very quickly, but let's say we're going to have some thinking, some considerations about the first eon. Let's bring up a few points that many believers have missed or taken too lightly. It's possible. Even when knowing that God's plan is an Aeonian one, that will be finished in 5 eons. First of all, humanity didn't exist yet in the first eon. We know that, right? Adam was created in the second eon. Although the length of the first eon is unknown, we know that God interacted with other beings, celestial creatures. So this is the literal part. So God interacted with celestial creatures. They were there before the earth was formed or created. And also, of course, obviously, during the first eon. So much so that we can say the heavens came first and then the earth. You can see that. And it's also the order in which Scripture describes God's creation. In beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. Genesis 1:1. So the heavens came first and then the earth. Since there were already celestial beings in existence when the foundations of the earth were laid. We know that. From what? From where? Job 38, verse 7. Let's read verse 4 first and then verse 7. God said to Job, "Where were you when I founded the earth? Tell me, or tell if you know with understanding." Not just know with understanding. When, and that's verse 7, when the stars of the morning were jubilant together, and all the sons of Elohim raised a joyful shout. Where were you, Job? That's what God asks of Job. And I think Job had to lack an answer, a response, because he doesn't know, obviously, and we don't know as well. There must have been a reason why the gods, they are gods, sons of Elohim, were so happy when they saw the earth form. We also know that the earth became chaos and vacant at the end of the first eon. That was. There must also have been a reason why some of them, led by the enemy, set off the events that caused the earth to be, or the world of that time, to be disrupted at the end of that first eon. Whenever Scripture mentions world, it talks about system. Just remember that. System. So let's say, if you could say the earth system, that means everything on the earth, everything surrounded the earth, the also below the earth. It's all part of that specific specific terrestrial world, that terrestrial system. It's a system. Everything belongs to that system. Okay, so there must have been a reason that they were so happy when they saw the earth form, and there must have been a reason why some of them, the same beings, some of them, led by the enemy, set off the events that caused the earth to become chaos and vacant. Something happened. There is no reason that the earth and the world at a time, that system at a time, has been violently disrupted. There is no question. Did I say reason? Remember me saying that? No, sorry. There is no question that the earth has been violently disrupted. Of course, it was disrupted. Not only are there signs in the structure of the earth itself that a violent change occurred at some time in the past, but there are also signs in Scripture. The Greek word katabole, which is used 10 times to talk about the world or system, literally means downcast, casting down, casting down. That's what it means. It's wrongly translated as foundation in most modern translations, no less. In 2 Corinthians 4 verse 9, the verb form of the word is used. Let's read about that. Persecuted but not abandoned. Cast down but not dying. Here you see cast down as a verb. So downcast, that's the Greek word katabole. Kata means down and bole means cast. To cast, to through cast through. Okay. But Genesis 1 verse 2, may be the most powerful scriptural proof for the disruption. Of course, it shows a big difference from what had happened in verse 1. There are 2 lines in the concordant translation that we should read together. Genesis 1 verse 1 and 2. Let's read. In the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. As for the earth, it came to be a chaos and vacant, and darkness was over the surface of the abyss. The abyss is like a limited depth. Did I say limited? Sorry again. Unlimited, a limitless depth. God didn't make the earth a mess. This is important. He made it so it could be inhabited. So it could never be a mess when He created it. He created order, not chaos. He created structure, not vacancy. Of course not. So remember, God did not make the earth a mess. He created structure and order. That's how God is. That's God's character. That's God's personality. And in Isaiah 45 verse 18, you can read this very passage. I'm just thinking, shall I read it? Maybe it's a good idea, huh? Let's look it up first. Isaiah 45 verse 18. And it says, For thus says Yahweh, creator of the heavens, He is the one, Elohim, the former of the earth and its maker. He Himself established it. He did not create it a chaos. He formed it to be what? Indwelt or inhabited. I am Yahweh and there is no other. Let that be clear. Let's see. This time I didn't. Let me show you. Let me show you. Sorry. I think I have to really be coming into the flow again. Sorry. So again, you see the text right here. For thus says Yahweh, or press pause. Maybe that's better. Press pause and read this passage for yourself. Just what I read. So we switch now back to the slides. And we continue with the next slide. So it is not true that he made it in darkness or out of darkness, as most people think, because some translation says the earth was chaos and void or vacant. But it's not true. The earth became or came to be chaos and vacant. Very important difference, of course. He made the earth in light because he is light and there is no darkness in him. 1 John 1 verse 5. When the light goes out, darkness comes on automatically. In the scripture, darkness is linked to the enemy in God's design. Look at Ephesians 6 verse 11 and 12. There it talks about the spiritual forces of darkness or of wickedness. So it is right there. You can read it for yourself. In Genesis 1 verse 2, we see the first mention of the jurisdiction of darkness that Jesus and Paul, the Apostle Paul, later talked about in Luke 22:53 and Colossians 1 verse 13. Remember, he took us out of the jurisdiction of darkness and placed us in the kingdom of the Son of his love. Great, great passage. Okay. Based on these and other scripture passages, we can state that there was a rebellion against God at the end of the first eon, which finished with that world system, that world being shattered and darkness falling, because that's exactly what happened. There were no people at the time. So this revolt, so this revolt must have been among the host of heaven. The hosts of heaven. Because mankind hadn't been made yet, they weren't to blame for the world becoming empty and chaotic, or for the darkness that came with it. People were not to blame for that, because they were not around yet. They didn't exist yet. Very important to realize too. Therefore, people were also not the main reason the Lambkin was slain. People were also not, I didn't say the reason, but the main reason that the Lambkin was slain. Because where does it say the Lambkin was slain? In Revelation 13 verse 8. And what does it say when the Lambkin was slain? When was it slain? From the disruption of the world, not before, because before, that was when God foreknew the Lambkin, according to 1 Peter 1 verse 20, 19 and 20. But when was the Lambkin slain, meaning blood came into the play? That was from the disruption of the world, because that was the moment that sin entered into the universe, into the world. That is the reason why the Lambkin was slain, from the disruption of the world. I hope you see that. This is all God's design and God's plan, obviously. Let's read it in Revelation 13 verse 8, where scripture says that the Lambkin was slain from the disruption of the world. So it is important to note that people were not yet alive at the time of the disruption. It's important to realize that. Let's read Ephesians 6 verse 11 and 12. Put on the panoply of God to enable you to stand up to the stratagems of the adversary. For it is not ours to wrestle with blood and flesh, that's humans, but with the sovereignties, with the authorities, with the world mights of this darkness, with the spiritual forces of wickedness among the celestials. That's who we are to fight with, so to speak. Well, time is flying again. Okay, we continue. It is foolish for humans, therefore, to fight with each other. Of course, because the real enemies of God's plan are the very powerful spiritual forces of wickedness among the celestials. So please realize that very strongly. They have these beings, these celestial beings, the wicked ones, they have consistently fought against God's purpose wherever it has been revealed. Consistently. And they caused so much destruction at the end of the first eon that chaos and emptiness or vacancy resulted. Thus, our stance is that mankind wasn't the cause, the first or main cause of all evil, but rather mankind is a special creation, a whole new order of beings designed and made by God according to His perfect plan, and of course, again to repeat it, and according to His or in His image and likeness. That's how mankind is made. Okay, let's do one more slide. So we continue. Out of this new breed, mankind, there would come the one who would fix the damage Satan did to the first things God made both in heaven and on earth, because there was huge damage. And the one to fix that damage came out of mankind. So in no way does this mean that humanity in and of itself can fix things. Oh no. We will later see that humanity too was made subject to what? To pride and vanity. Vanity, a synonym of vanity, is uselessness, so that it could not do anything on its own. Mankind. Of course not. No, we are not claiming that people can make the world right with God. Let it be clear, please. We state that God can do this amazing thing by using the special man, Jesus Christ, and giving him the right mindset for this exact reason. See for that Romans 8 verse 3 and Philippians 2 verse 5 through 8. Very well-known passages. Look them up for yourself. So I will leave it at that in this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I truly hope to see you next time, because there's a lot coming. See you then. Bye-bye.